I don't know, is anybody using AI in this room? Been messing around with all the Gen AI tools, both personally and professionally. I'm working with a startup that's in LA that is building Gen AI powered games. The idea is that every day you're going to solve a murder mystery with actual photorealistic audio, video evidence, etc. And with a small team. So you could never actually make this game the way that we want to make it without the tools that we have. So it should be a fun conversation. And I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves because I won't do you justice. So Kyle, let me start with you.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. Gur-Ari, I'm originally from Israel, worked in tech there, then went into physics, used to do string theory. That brought me to the Bay Area. I did a postdoc at Stanford, and then caught the AI bug, just being around here. Before ChatGPT, before all the hype that's happening now, but there was a lot of hype here around it even back then. Then left physics to join Google to do full-time AI research, worked on large language models, worked on some of Google's earlier large models, PaLM, PaLM2, that folks have been following. Yeah, and my passion is around getting these models to reason, because I think that's the path to AGI. And so worked on math and science questions at Google, and then left Google to found Augment Code, where we're working on the other hard reasoning problem, which is code. And our focus is really on getting these models to work well on large code bases, enterprise scale software development tasks.
Cool. Hey all, I'm Tushar. I lead engineering product for Docker. Let's see, been a Docker for coming up to a year. Before this, a number of places: Stripe, Oracle Cloud, AWS up in Seattle. And I'm pretty excited. For me, with Docker was interesting, especially now as this wave of change is happening. Can we sort of revitalize technology like Docker that's been part of everyone's life, but for the new wave? It's a fun time.
All right, definitely a fun time. Also, lots of change. We were talking earlier this evening about kind of the herds that essentially flock from one tool to another, and like one way to another. And is this going to stop at some point? And basically it's like, all right, well, we're starting with GitHub stuff and Microsoft stuff, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and now it's called code and it's agents, and it's like, does this stop ever, Guy? Are you just going to continue to foist new paradigms on us every day?
Yeah, I think
it seems like every day.
Yeah, I think my sense is going to continue for the foreseeable future. And the reason is that the model capabilities are so far beyond what we've built in the products. And the products are beyond what most developers have figured out how to use. That we still have, even if the models stopped improving today, and they won't, but even if they did, we still have quite a ways to go to catch up to the model capabilities, and then people have quite a ways to go to figure out how to make the best use of the products. And so I think this is going to keep going. And in parallel, the next big thing that's going to happen is probably models are going to get really good at being multi-agent systems, which they're currently kind of suck at right now, but that's the next big thing that's coming. And so that's going to bring a whole new wave of how do we productionize multi-agent systems. And so I think for the next year or two, we're pretty much guaranteed for this to keep going.
All right, so this is good, because then there's a career for YouTubers to explain it all to us. There's a lot of tech meme headlines that will continue to, so there's a media ecosystem that will continue to thrive around this entire thing. But all right, so I want to dig in on something that I think is really interesting, which is okay, so the models are way ahead of essentially the ergonomics of the tools that developers are using. And can you give us an example of where you're seeing that, with either your stuff or what? How do you know that, right? How does that actually show up? And is this just about building better software to take advantage of those capabilities, or is it about developer education?
Yeah, so I think one place where I'm seeing that is just my own usage of these tools. So typically when I code these days, so I have not written a line of code myself in over 6 months now. I think it's all the agent. The agent does all of it with a lot of steering, but does all of it. And so when I really get down to coding, I have between 3 and 5 agents kind of running, doing different things. And it's a terrible user experience because like half the time I forget what that agent did. There's tons of context switching. I have to wrangle terminals and diffuse and VS Code and all kinds of stuff like that. And then like some code goes to GitHub, and then I go look at it there and I get some code review comments a day later and so on and so forth. It's just a terrible experience, but I am for sure 5 to 10x more productive than I would have been without it. And so it's worth it, but it's exhausting to use it that way. And this is all, I'm just talking about like inner loop software development and just me and the IDE writing code, testing code, deploying code sometimes, things like that. I'm not even talking about like automating code review, automating incident response, automating, all the other parts of the software development lifecycle which are coming next. So I just see day to day that our product and everybody's product is just not up to snuff compared to what the agents are capable of doing. And that's just now. That will take like probably a few months to figure out, but we're just kind of scratching the surface of what we can do with these things.
All right, so Tushar, like you're running a software development organization at Doc. So I want to both talk about like what's happening with your teams right now and like how they're adopting these tools. And then I'm going to get to like what does it mean for your business, right? But I'd love to hear like, this is like every week it's like a new thing, right? So how are you guys keeping up?
Yeah, so just in that part, right? Like what you just described is I think almost like it's still like an advanced user of AI tools. Most people aren't running like 3 to 5, right? They're trying to like run one thing and get there. So on our side, for example, I don't know, if I go back 6 months ago, I feel like I was beating the drum of like we all have to start using this stuff. And there's a bunch of resistance for a variety of reasons, right? I don't think it was so much like replace my job concerns. There's just some amount of, I think, natural developer resistance to hype. Like, because it's hype, I will by default oppose it for a lot of people. But that's just completely changed. Like, it's flipped 100% in 6 months. And not because I've been beating the drum, just because like we've had some people doing it. We just set up a channel, we just like had people share, record how they do it. Just sort of created one of the motion of it, plus what's happening in the industry, plus things that improved. And all of a sudden, the people who were like, oh, this can't do like my complicated job, is like, oh, this is amazing. And they've just switched. But even then, people are still trying to catch up, right? And even then, they're like, oh, I can do it for this. Oh, I can do it for this. And now I switch to cloud code and do this. So it's still super early to your point of just like the developer, the humans catching up to what's possible. Because there's like cognitive load. Joe can't do that and manage that. But as that happens, it's like so rapid. Like the switch and flip that happens so rapid. So like we were talking earlier, Cursor grew, so we started Copilot, and that was good. And then Cursor came in, just took over. Like Copilot just like got left on the wayside. But then all of a sudden, the same thing's happening with Cursor, at least for us and Cloud Code. In the last few weeks, I'm just seeing this
Weeks.
But it's rapid, and like now all of a sudden, the other one that's like slowly picking up, and I'll see what happens is the Warp 2.0. All of a sudden, a bunch of people are super excited about that and doing that some way. So it is gonna keep happening for a while, and I think the key thing is like you have to keep up with it. There is no other choice at this point. Like you have to be willing to like learn and iterate and go. And for me and for us, I think the thing I'm most interested in, like we should do this because it's small software development that become more efficient. I'm interested in all the efficiency and all the productivity gains, but for us, given who Docker is, that we're a developer tools company, I think this is just critical for us in terms of like what we build. Like it's hard to go build stuff in here unless our team is like 100% AI first, AI native, and we're not an AI native company by default, right? So we have to transition to that, and so that's the other reason. And so that's happening now. As this happens, this is like rapidly happening. And so the thing I find interesting about this is like the transition felt slow, and now it feels really fast.
I'm curious, all right, so 100% of the code that you've written in the last, how long? 6 months? 6 months.
Since we have the
engineers, right? Exactly. What percentage of the code that's being committed at Docker right now do you think is actually generated by a robot?
It's a good question. I don't know the number, but I know like roughly 40% of the developers are using Cursor Cloud Code extensively. I think for them, the vast majority is coming, like it's like 2/3 more for them is coming.
What's holding back the other 60% of your team?
I think just my view of this is, at some point, this has to be like an enablement play. It's like, when you roll something like sales, you do sales enablement. At some point, you got to do something for developers. Like, there's people who will naturally get there, but then I think I'm not done enough. You should do more to like, here's how you do it, here's the guardrails, or here's the like golden path, and like some more education and practice. So I think what's holding it back is just lack of like trying it themselves, and then just some feeling of like, okay, what do I do? And so some central programming will help, is my current belief.
And are you running any of that now? Or is it all just
starting to, part of the thing is being, I want to be careful when I do that.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to cross some Rubicon of like, oh, this is like broadly accepted before I do it.
Yeah, but that's what we were just talking about. Then you're basically stuck, right? Like.
But we're almost there, right?
Okay.
We're almost there. Like I'm there. Like I think I'm like, yeah, I'll get this kicked off now. Like we just did a hackathon of like build agents, and like everyone built a whole bunch of agents to automate various parts of their CLC at this point. So like now, like I wanted to get to the point of what are you if this does very top down, there'll just be resistance.
Right.
And so now I'm at the point where that's not the case. So now like let's go do more programming to help.
Right. Right. So Guy, you're selling your tools into organizations with both kind of a bottoms-up motion of developers adopting, and probably also some like top-down guidance, because you're focused on large code bases and enterprises, right? So I'm curious, like what you all are seeing in terms of adoption, and whether what you're seeing with your customers matches what's happening with Docker. Like, early adopter. I mean, it's a classic kind of like, adoption curve type thing, right? So I'm just curious, like what you're seeing with your customers.
Yeah, exactly. So we have both a self-serve motion. You can download the product, start using it immediately, and pay by credit card if you want. And we have a sales motion, where the self-serve motion is really feeding the sales motion now, in the sense that we have developers downloading the product, they love it, they tell their manager about it, and then we get an email, and we sell it to more developers at that company. I think the feature where we really took off was the agent. I think until then we had completions, we had chat, people liked them, but it didn't really take off. I think once we put the agent out there, that's when like serious growth started happening. And what we're seeing in companies, and I think that's also why self-serve is interesting, is everything Tushar said resonates. We're seeing people are all over the adoption curve of these things. Some people are just getting used to completions. Some people are like, running multiple agents 24/7. We hosted Kent back in our office. He's like a big Augment fan, and he was telling me how, like you guys should really have a notification system, because I have so many of these things running that I need to know when one of them is done, just so I can go check up on it.
I mean, it's like a basic user. Like, I mean, I'm just getting into like agents, whatever. Like the alert noise from either cursor or v0 that it's like I finished my thing. It's like, ooh, okay, I can go back to the tab and see what actually got made. It's the best. So yeah, if Kent Back is asking you for notifications, then bump that up. You should have an agent right now ready to notification for you.
We have that now. And then of course we gotta ask, like, can I turn it off? So you can't make everyone happy with the defaults. But I think what we're seeing inside organizations is yes, it's exactly that. Many people are hesitant, and I think the biggest productivity gains are coming from the agent, but that's also what requires the most change in habits for developers to really make the most use out of agents.
Oh, say more about that.
Yeah, so like just to give an example, when the agent is writing, first of all, developers really like thinking about code, being in code. It's like this kind of intimate experience with a cursor. And now you're asking them to, don't look at that anymore. Look at the prompt box. Write English in the prompt box. Just tell it what you want to do, and it will kind of happen sometimes, right?
It's like being a PM.
A PM, maybe a tech lead, maybe something in between. Yeah.
I was an English major. I like writing.
There you go.
Words to developers to make things. So I actually love this shit.
You love it?
Like,
Many developers
100%.
Right.
Yes. And so we try to help them. We have an enhanced prompt feature so that they can put like a half-baked prompt in there and then click a button, get a whole nicer prompt. Yeah, so there's a lot of that. So that's the first shift that needs to happen. You need to calibrate you need to understand how much context you need to give the agent, and you need to break down big tasks into smaller ones. Not just so the agent stays on track, but also because you're going to need to supervise everything that the agent did. If it's giving you 2,000 lines of code, you're going to have to kind of go through those 2,000 lines of code. So break it down. What are bite-sized chunks that make sense for you and the agent to collaborate on? And then comes the whole review process. How do you review the changes that the agent made? How do you keep track of it? Do you know, like, this I already reviewed, I didn't review that? How do you go back and give the agent comments? And so we're kind of everybody's kind of trying to figure all of this out, and we're trying to figure out how to productionize all of this, but it all requires a lot of habits changing. So a concrete example is, I think me and a bunch of other folks at the company at Augment settled on a review process that involves Git. So we kind of mapped stage in Git means I reviewed it, commit in Git means like I finished this whole bunch of stuff, I don't want to look at it again. When I tell that to developers, many of them are like, well, I have my way of doing version control. I'm not gonna like change the way I'm doing version control just to accommodate the agent. But then it's hard to use the agent, it's hard to keep up with what's happening. So this like habits changes all over the stack. Sometimes these are habits that have formed over like decades of developing software. Now you have to revisit all of that. That's a big challenge that I've seen for developers. Yeah.
All right, this is actually kind of mind-blowing because this gets to your kind of the thing around like what you're saying about the inner loop, right, and the outer loop, right? So there's the actual just like writing of code, and then there's all the agents that can actually influence the rest of the software development process. All right, so Tushar, like, I'm really curious about like, I'm sure there's agents that are out there making Docker containers and like doing like basically, because your whole business is in the outer loop, right?
Yeah.
Like, what happens to Docker? Like, what happens to Docker?
Yeah, what's the plan of the company?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually think like there's one narrative of like, are agents going to just make all this abstract away and there's no need for this technology and everything? I actually think it's the opposite. I actually think there's like a ton of interesting new opportunity now, and not to like give the whole spiel, but completely in here, the way I think about this is sort of two things. One is be the agent to the right of the coding agent. So right now, there's a number of things in this space. So let's take it step by step. One is you have all the agents producing code, but all the same problems exist that have always existed within a loop, which I think is like, okay, great, you just got a whole bunch of interns writing a lot more code. Imagine if like on a team of 100, you had 100 more interns join and write a bunch of code. Great, lots more code coming out. What's gonna happen in CI, what's gonna happen in staging? Because most people don't do integration testing early. They just don't have the setup. It's not with the agent, you just like don't have integration and all that stuff. So you need that feedback. Now agents are doing some testing at least, so that's good. But like earlier with Cursor, that was just like, here's the code, go for it. So I think that's an opportunity for us because what Docker is good at is understanding the environment and abstracting it. So for example, we can do sandbox as a service with integration, with CI, shift left, so that an agent can plug in and do stuff. Then you go to the outer loop, and there's a whole lot there. This is interesting, and actually I'll be curious, your thoughts and others here. There's a bunch of people building sort of, I don't know what to call them, but like maybe purpose-built outer loop agents. So like I'll build an SRE agent, right, which will understand how to do a big job to be done. Or I'll build like a SecOps agent, like I take a job to be done, a full workflow and automate that. I think that's interesting, and there'll be lots of value in that. But the SDLC is like so varied. Everyone has different integrations, different practices. I think what's interesting, and I think what we're working on now is what people have always done is, the thing you got with Docker is I can build a thing, use it anywhere, and everyone builds scripts and containers to themselves. What if I can just build mini agents for my life and package them up the same way I do with any OC artifact, share it anywhere, and now this thing runs with easy testing built here. And so I think like for the SDLC, everyone should be able to get like a mini agent for themselves, customize their idiosyncrasies, their environment easily. And so basically, imagine like a Replit for developers for DevOps. So we're building that now. So we actually have this up internally, and it's like catching fire internally. So that's a good signal.
That's very cool. I mean, that's one of the things that even in startup life right now with the company I'm working with, we have this challenge of like, okay, I'm gonna go vibe code this thing. I'm gonna go make this prototype. How do I get this distributed to people? Like all of the same problems still exist, right? So like our CEO went and basically like spent a weekend in Google's AI Studio and made an incredible version of this game. And he was like, I have this idea for how this whole game loop should work. And getting that out of AI Studio was basically impossible. And like running that in any other context was basically impossible.
Yeah,
Right.
on that, I mean, yeah, exactly. That's a great point. This is another one. We're currently working on this of like, yeah, how do you package and share this stuff in a way it can be anywhere? So we're working on like an extension to OCI. So you can effectively package any other OCI artifact. And now we're going to standard for complex agents that you can share anywhere and take and run. And so that I think would be interesting too.
All right, I have a question I just like a show of hands. Who here has used these tools to build personal software for yourself? All right, and is it still running? Is it running all the time? Is it like a thing that was like a throwaway piece, or was it like, yeah, this is a tool that's now in my life?
It's in the Google Play Store.
It's in the Play Store.
There you go.
A plus. Got an A student in the back row. Usual
I
size
created an
price.
LLC to avoid the Google Play Store proposed data.
That's excellent. That's great.
Restriction,
Great.
and it took me less than a day using AI to create the LLC and then get my product.
And get your product out. Like you made the company and the product in less than a day and got it in the Play Store. Yeah.
The product took a few days.
All right. Okay. Fine. A few days.
So what I found is I'm more impressed by the fact that it can just build the things that I asked it to so fast that I'm like, oh shit, I've got to figure out what I need to
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. So here's. All right. Next question for the audience, actually. All right. Raise your hand if you at some point in the recent past or in the future, like actually hire engineers. Hire and manage engineers. Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up if these tools are changing the way you think about your hiring plans over the next 12 months. All right, what happens to the future of this thing that you all both seem to love, which is writing code? You used to write code, you probably like it, but what happens to this profession?
I'll give a quick one that you go. I'm always an optimistic person, and it's like I don't think that this is gonna be high jobs anymore. Actually, so I think a couple things. It's bold to make any vision statement here. That's too risky, but I'll try. I think a few things will happen. One, maybe the job profile will change. This notion of developer, product manager, designer, it's already blurring. At this point, I have designers, PMs produce V0, and so can I just do the last part?
Can I just ship that?
I just
Can I just ship
can I
it?
just do
Ship
it?
it. Ship it.
Exactly.
Ship it.
And so why not? And so I think my hope is I think creativity is unlimited. As long as you have ideas, we should ideally get a lot more of these cross-functional profile that can build and do stuff. And then you can just do a lot more. And so my take is GP should go up, output company should go up, and as long as you're not constrained by ideas, you should be able to continue going and driving. That's as far as human. In the near term, I think there's just gonna be so much growth, you're gonna need a bunch of people, because it's a while until this thing is building my new distributed service. We're not there yet. So I think we keep going.
I think I'm also optimistic long term, but I'm not as optimistic short term. I think short term is going to be tough, especially for junior developers, straight out of college. Because what I'm seeing a little bit is these are powerful tools, and so it's not only that the senior developers can do a lot more with these tools, it's also that when you put these things in junior developers' hands, you often get slop that you then have to go and because the tools are not actually AGI, it's not actually good enough to do the job for you. You still need a lot of supervision, And if you're a junior dev and you don't have a lot of experience, you can easily generate a lot of bad code that is not obvious at first glance to a senior developer that's actually bad. So I've seen that happen already. Not at Augment, but in users' hands. And so I do think that short term is going to be tough. Long term, I'm also optimistic. I think sometimes people tend to think of this as a zero-sum game where AI will take over the coding and then humans won't do coding, but I actually think there's a whole lot more we want to build and need to build than we are building, and we are bottlenecked on software development speed. So I think we kind of need to figure out the right setups, maybe smaller companies, maybe more smaller companies, I don't know, but the right setup for just generating more good products and more good software. But we're not there yet. We need to cross the chasm of, we just have this huge productivity boost from these tools and we need to kind of reorient. So my sense is short term is going to be tough and long term is going to be great.
I think I'm with, I'm going to do the Instagram or TikTok thing, Subway hot takes. Ever seen the Subway takes? Right? So hot take. 100% disagree. No, I'm just kidding. I think that I'm actually short-term pessimistic and long-term pessimistic on software development as a career. I think that there will be many fewer of them, and we'll have many more empowered, creative people. So I'm long-term optimistic on what happens with the output. I'm really long-term pessimistic on software engineering as an actual career. I think that will be a lot. That's my hot take. But we'll have lots and lots of people making software, which I think is a great thing. So I would make that trade-off every day of the week for more people making software and being creative, and fewer people of the high priest variety that have the ability to go do that. So that's my.
It's a little bit like photographers, right? Like, do you need the expert photographers? It's just like everyone has an iPhone, and it's a lot more photos out there.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we should open it up to questions, and folks have. You can stop listening to me try to come up with things to talk about.
A long time ago, I cared a lot about the elegance of the assembly language that I wrote and what my compiler produced, and now I don't care at all. How long do you think it will be until we feel that way about current high-level languages?
Yep, the question's answered.
Yeah, I think, so the thing I'm seeing is that you still have to care about the design, because if you don't care about that, you really easily get yourself into trouble. I mean, that just happens around 10 to 20,000 lines of code. The thing just slows down, the development speed, the agent can't figure out anything, and you're done. So I think that's just the essential complexity of software. We're gonna have to keep caring about that. Models will get better at it, but now they're really bad at it. In terms of elegance of, as developers, we really enjoy looking at a 30-line snippet of code and assessing its aesthetics. I think that's gonna be a bit you go to the zoo and see horses where you used to ride the horses. It's gonna be art, and some people will do that as a hobby, but it's not gonna come up in day-to-day professional life, is my sense. Yeah.
Especially if you can just use an element like query and understand, hey, what's happening here? Then a lot of reason for good design is, I think, comprehensibility, right? So someone else can understand what's happening, someone else can pick up on it and go on. But if I'm mostly interacting with this through an element, then
yeah, maybe to add to that, we talk about SDLC and where if you can generate code really quickly, where are the bottlenecks? I'm seeing the bottlenecks are in code review right now. That's the next bottleneck, because I can generate a stack of 20 PRs, and then somebody has to look at it, and I did it in a day, and now it's gonna take a week to merge it in. That's ridiculous, right? And so, what that means is we're gonna have to automate that as well. And then who's reading code? Who's there to even assess if it's aesthetic or not?
Yeah, so maybe spend your time on good validation and good tests, and that's what you care about.
And design is hard to verify. You gotta look at the design, but
Hey guys, it's like brain connected with you guys as going through all the stuff we're talking about at the same time. My name is Ishwar. My company makes a massage robot. So the question is, do I think of an agent as a thing that performs a task, or do I think of an agent as a software engineer in my team?
It's like today, it's like an eager intern. That's kind of the level where it's at. You gotta watch it closely, because it might bring the whole system down if you don't watch it closely, but it's kind of as good as an intern. And it changes every few months as new models get rolled out. The level, I would say, notice, like, just looking at Sonnet, like Claude 3.5, 3.7, 4, it's improving. Like every 3 months, it's improving. But right now, it's like an intern, basically.
Hey guys, thanks for being here. Awesome discussion so far. I'm Nishid. Most recently, I was at Meta, managing a few teams in ML and product engineering. My question was, aside from the engineer role, do you see a need for agentic workflow kind of optimization across the other roles, like PM, designer, engineers? One outcome could be that they all merge in one person, but what about if you have human beings in these roles, how does that orchestration workflow happen?
Sure. I think that's an interesting one. That's the one I'm already seeing starting to happen, right? And so maybe this goes a bit, time where we talked about a bit, and like this also gets a bit to like, get up with this topic for like an hour or more. Also like org design. Like I think you kind of need to get to the point where I feel like I only get to like these little product units that are independent for the most part, they can run fast. And then you get these other functions where suddenly you probably design it, ship it, and get focused just on like product engineering and product shipping a lot more. It's a thing design PM that has to happen. That said, it is hard. There's a lot of skills here, right? There's a skill of like understanding the user, building the right thing, ideating, building it well. But then you also need to like, okay, I'm gonna take it to market and take it to GTM and help it land. At the end of the day, someone has to have a story that only you can understand to buy it. So I don't know if it all comes together in one person or not, but I do think the overlap will stop. Like what should happen is, I think the intersection of these all should increase a lot more, and like PM designers should be able to like design and ship. Engineers should understand, like the value of engineers ones will understand, be able to ideate and do stuff. And I'm not quite sure what happens beyond that.
Yeah, I'd extend it. I mean, there are other business functions. In some sense, we're engineering-wise, I guess we're probably pretty advanced on the AI adoption piece because everybody's like talking about agents all the time. So even if you're like super resistant to it, you cave eventually. That's what we've seen internally. And then like die-hard systems engineers who like thought the whole thing was a joke, or like telling I use the agent for everything else. Okay, cool. But then there are other business functions, right? There's like sales and marketing and recruiting and all that. I would say we are pretty conservative, and sometimes when I talk to other founders who started companies after us, after ChatGPT was already a thing and so on, they're like, oh yeah, we're automating pieces of sales. So I think we're seeing it in code a lot, because in code you can close the loop and let the agent run the code and have it verify itself. I think that makes code very special. You're putting these guardrails on the outputs, and that's why we're seeing, I think, probably the most rapid progress there. But it's gonna happen in other business functions as well. Yeah.
Just to add a little bit, so I agree. Like when we talk about with development, just from there, I think the place that's actually going to be big impact is outside that. So like around risk at Stripe, we had massive risk support vendors. Even in 2022, like literally ChatGPT came out, within 6 to 9 months after that, we just started automating away most of the jobs, and like we started at KPIs, reducing the number of manual support vendors we had. So I think like support is that's gonna have like big impact. We have all these offshore companies, lots of people running there. Like that is 100% gonna get automated very rapidly everywhere. So that's the thing. The other function here, like way more.
Hi, my name is Olena Dimitrievich. I was recently at Wikimedia responsible for the data platform. I have a question about the performance of these two tools across different languages and frameworks, and also as we see more and more of the coding done by agents and AI, what does that mean for the evolution of coding as a craft, and which many of these tools constructs were born out of the pain of real actual developers? What happens next with the evolution of languages and frameworks?
Yeah, I'd say, right now, I have, among you could take 10 most popular languages, let's say. So the models are best at JavaScript and Python, but you can go down top 10 languages and they do just completely fine. I don't know Rust, I don't know Go, we have a bunch of code written on those languages, the agent does all of it, and I kind of stare at it, and it seems to work, and it's fine. And others review it, we have SOC 2 and all that, it's not just me and the agent,
Ship it.
Yeah, no. But it does just fine, I don't understand Rust at all, and it can't. So that, frameworks, languages, we're past that, I would say. Unless you have a proprietary language that only exists in the organization, then it can be trickier. But on future development, it's interesting, right? Because the reason these models are so good at Python and JavaScript is because that's where most of the training data comes from. So I suspect there might be a challenge here for even introducing a new programming language in this environment.
Yeah.
Because, okay, you're introducing a new programming language, the agents don't know about it. Who's going to write that code? I'm not going to bother to do that if the agent can do it, right? So there's this chicken and egg problem with new languages these days.
I think the Apple community is talking about this a whole bunch with SwiftUI, that there's been such rapid change in what the capabilities of SwiftUI that the models aren't up to date, or it will give you recommendations for things that have been deprecated. And so that, because it's essentially so new and changes so frequently, that they're not good at SwiftUI. It's just a crazy, they're good at core Swift because that's relatively stable, but Swift, it's it can't deal with SwiftUI at all.
They're really good at NumPy.
Yeah, exactly.
Just one thing, that's actually really fascinating because these languages, but just imagine companies building SDKs now. If the whole thing is to get into the model,
Yep.
that's a problem to figure out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that if it's not a super complicated new thing, with our with our rack solution, other rack solutions, that you can kind of figure a lot of that out. But if it's a whole new if your SDK is super complicated, lots of endpoints and so on, then it definitely becomes more challenging, and you're just less competitive compared to SDKs that are already out there, so the models are better. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Vignesh, and I'm just a student who just graduated from a university. I really agree with your take on hiring junior devs and then.
I'm sorry.
What do you think? My question to you guys is: what do you think hiring should be in the next upcoming future or long term? And when you consider agentic AIs to take over as a managerial position?
Oh.
Sorry, who's the manager in this question?
Right.
The AI.
AI.
The AI is the manager.
Which is that situation.
I'll take a quick take and you jump in. So I think, the impact on even when I said it'll grow, you're right, early engineering hiring is being impacted even on our side. We try to hire people with years of experience. That is true. That's interesting take there. When is an agent become manager? I know what's interesting there is you're quickly to the point, and everyone's at different points of this where you're using multiple agents. Then it makes sense to have an agent coordinate other agents, right? And this is the part which you start figuring out. But that's still in my mind like a little power army for an individual developer, right? For a developer to manage their life and do that. So I don't quite know what that looks like. Maybe part of what happens is you need managers managing lots of people, and do you just end up with flatter hierarchy in companies now? You have much more. Everyone is actually delivering real work via a swarm of agents that they're managing or something, and the number of people managing maybe that changes. I don't know. It's really fascinating.
I don't know.
I think so. This makes me think of human as MCP. Maybe we can do that today.
It's bleak.
Yeah, right. That's tactical, but like maybe taking a step back. I don't know. I think there hasn't been a better time to actually try to build something yourself from scratch. Is my take. So there's I think it might be that this whole notion of you have to go work at a company to get a job to get paid might change, because just think about it. Like today, you can build a new product and put it on Play Store in a few days. Well, if you can do that, can't you get the agent to try 100 of those things and try to get product market fit that way? Like, do you really need to even sit there and think of ideas one by one? Can you automate that? It's like that. This is kind of what I'm getting at when I'm saying that the capabilities are here and we are here. I think we're just scratching the surface of what a single human can do with these tools. That's where I feel the empowerment is coming from. Now it's scary and hard, and it's not how me or anyone here was probably brought up to think about what a career looks like, but I think that's changing. So in some sense it's scary because it's changing. On the other hand, there's never been a greater opportunity to build stuff yourself, is what I would say.
Yeah, this is why I'm long-term optimistic of you'll have a whole bunch of very, very small 1-person, 2-person, 3-person, 5-person organizations that are having really, really high impact work. And I will say that when agents start managing people is when the revolution happens. And people will flip tables. I think that when that's actually a thing, then I think we have much bigger societal problems on our hands. So
I think when we treat this channel, I think humans in CP has to be the tagline. And in the social post for every single one.
Well, that feels like a really optimistic.
all right, we have one more question.
I just want to ask, so I'm a product manager, I'm not a developer, but how do you deal with fraud? All of this stuff is great, it's optimistic, but identity fraud, credit card fraud, all of these things, you're going to have a product manager that knows shit about identity management, that's building something and putting it in a Play Store that nobody's, suddenly everyone's credit card's stolen, their identity's stolen. How do we feel about that?
So before this was managing risk at Stripe. So that was, don't take that job. That's a stressful job. Well, so I think this is, the scary thing about this is risk and fraud is it's a battle, right? It's just it's an arms race always. And now all of a sudden, Frosters had access to ML, but it was harder. But now all of a sudden, it's everyone has access to all this stuff. I think for people building things, there will be solutions out there. What happens with the platform plays, right? Everyone integrated with this. And so I think that's what have to happen. But then how you actually fight with this and keep it up is it's going to be just it's plumbing that have to exist that everyone integrates with to do it. But this will just be a continuous battle. And it's pretty scary to think about how sophisticated stuff is getting now already. Just back in 2022, we had well-crafted emails and stuff being written that looked like this sounded like someone, or audio fraud that sounded like someone else. It's just so stuff's going to evolve rapidly. And so the only thing I can think of is there'll just have to be basic platform services that everyone is plumbed into integrating, and then those people are on the rat race and keeping it up.
Yeah, we're seeing this firsthand. People will go to great lengths to get free Augment. So they're reverse engineering the product, they're putting it up on GitHub. We're pretty sure they're using Augment to do it. So basically we're kind of helping them reverse engineer things with the developer tools that we're giving them. It's a big problem. Yeah, it's a big problem. I don't know how to answer. It's just a problem. We're dealing with it.